So, like many others in the America's Cup bubble, during the gap between the Prada Cup final and the start of the America's Cup, we've taken a few days off. I chose to head off on my trusty company vehicle to go and do a bit more touring on the Coromandel and stay with some friends over there. And very beautiful it is too. But if I'm honest, I'm not in much of a hurry to go back. Level 3's been declared in Auckland, it's level 2 here, and I know that just a few kilometres up that road there's a police blockade, and once I cross that line to go into Auckland, that's it. I will be in there and under level 3 restrictions, which mean I can't really move around. We've got to stay at home, work at home, and the rest of it. And it's a very nice home, but it's not much when you compare it to this, to be honest. So what's the gossip that's been going around? I'm hearing all kinds of chatter from people who've observed the Kiwi performance from all kinds of different vantage points, and there does appear to be a strong consensus that their boat is seriously quick. Although, having said that, how you judge the relative differences between a boat doing 40 knots and a boat doing 45, I'm not entirely sure. It just looks rather quick to me. But I guess in the meantime, the big issue is that when are we actually going to get back on the water and get back racing? I'd say there was a very real possibility that this cup just could extend beyond the 15th, which is when many people expect it to finish. But there's nothing in the rules that says it has to. But I tell you what, if the racing does have to drag on, I can't think of a better place for it to happen. And in the meantime, I guess I'm going to dawdle my way home, dragging my feet like a reluctant teenager. Eventually I'll have to cross that police block up the road. But there we go, still pretty on the other side. So here we are back in Auckland in lockdown, and it's a rather familiar sight, or at least sound I should say. It's eerily quiet. It's a weekday morning, it's 8:30. This would normally be really busy down here at the viaduct with people going backwards and forwards to work, but it's silent. All you can really hear is the construction work on the other side, a bunch of scavenging seagulls, which are always here for breakfast, and that's about it. But whilst it's quiet on the shore, teams are still able to go out and train. That's been the case all the way along, way before the event started. And while teams have been out on the water, there's been a fair bit going on behind the scenes. The America's Cup organisers, ACE, have put in an application to the government to allow racing to take place under level 3 restrictions. But one of the things that's quietly been attracting a bit of attention just recently has been Declaration Day. That was Monday the 1st of March, and the date by which both teams had to declare precisely the boats they were going to use come the America's Cup match. That declaration goes into the measurers and it defines the boat in precise terms, the boat that they're going to use. Now that in itself is part of a normal cup cycle, but there's a few subtle differences. One is that once they've declared that boat, that's it. That's the boat that they're going to use in the cup. Now in previous cups that hasn't been the case. In previous cups you've been able to apply for a new class certificate each time you go on the water. So quite a difference there. One of the other interesting things is that had the America's Cup worked to the original timetable, the declaration would have been 5 days before racing began. Now, at the earliest, it's been 10, which has meant that teams have had to look quite a long way in the future as to what kind of configuration they'd like for their boats. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe, as some people are saying, that the secret to success in this cup is having a boat that's good all round and not one that's particularly moded to a certain set of conditions. There's certainly plenty of evidence through the racing so far to suggest why that would be a risky route to take. One of the other interesting aspects going on behind the scenes, or in fact actually in the public domain, is the request for clarification over what teams can do when it comes to replacing a broken item. This request is quite a detailed one, and it focuses on what teams can replace should they break something. The long and the short of it is that if they do break a piece of kit and need to replace it, the first thing they need to do is they need to be able to convince the measurers that it was an unintentional breakage and that it can't be repaired. Having done that, they can only replace it with an item that they've put on their list on declaration day as to the list of spares and the order in which they would use them. That's another level of crystal ball gazing, I'd say. There are a number of people down here who are just wondering whether this might be just one of those feisty little topics that comes up a little later on. We'll keep an eye on that one. One of the other bits of gossip that's going around at the moment is that the Kiwis are back playing with the Code Zero. This will be a bit of a surprise to a lot of people because during this event's build-up, the Code Zero is one of the sails that has actually ended up being irrelevant. The problem in broad terms is that if the conditions are light enough for you to use one, once you put it up and set it, the boat accelerates so quickly that suddenly it's not appropriate anymore. Well, it sounds like the Kiwis might have a different view on this. We'll just have to wait and see on that one. Now, there is some good news to report as well, and that is that so far there haven't been any further community cases of COVID, so that's encouraging. So at present, it's all fingers crossed for a start of the event on Wednesday, the 10th of March. The funny thing is that actually, if you look at the weather forecast going ahead for this weekend, it's horrendous. So whether there have been COVID restrictions or not, the chances of sailing look pretty remote. But despite lots of uncertainty, there's one thing that you can be absolutely sure of, and that's that there are plenty of curveballs waiting in the wings. This is, after all, the America's Cup.